Morning, everybody. Welcome to Gamify Your Class. I'm Rob Bomboy, and I'm an art teacher from Cumberland Valley High School. Not many art teachers here at this conference, but I've had the great opportunity to be able to have some Mac laptops in my classroom for about 10 years. We run a lot of work through the Adobe suite, working with Photoshop and Illustrator, and After Effects and Premiere Pro, and I primarily teach TV production, film, IB film, International Baccalaureate film, and 3D modeling and animation. Our school's rather large. We have about 3,000 students, so that affords us the opportunity to have about 5 art teachers. So that worked out pretty well for us because we're still able to offer ceramics, we're still able to offer painting and sculpture. What else? Let's see. We have photography, and then that freed up some space as well for me to be able to build a program in the digital arts, or in what I call media arts. So what you're seeing up here on the board as you begin is kind of an ad that I run in the beginning of class, and I should say that I don't run this with all of my classes. I chose one. First year I tried it with one, and that worked well. Then I tried it with all my classes, and it was a little bit high maintenance. So from my end, a little bit high maintenance, so I ended up scaling it back. And I've kind of been fine-tuning with this one class and trying to think of ways that I can make this process work for all of my classes. But this is an ad that I run on my smartboard when the students come in. It's a Google Slides presentation, so I publish it to the web and it runs automatically. And what I do is I advertise the challenges that are available to them to be able to earn extra, what I call bomb bites. And actually the students came up with that. My last name's Bomboy, and they designed this game with me a couple years ago, about 3 years ago. And so that's what's going on there, and I try to promote it that way. For some reason, number 4 just doesn't want to work. Okay, so I'm going to try to take you through the process that we created, and something that I found that's very successful for my students, very motivating, and it also kind of gets them involved in a way that grades don't count. And I love that about it. It's gradeless. There's no grades involved in this. I have regular projects, regular assignments that I have my students do for grades, and they also earn points in the game for the projects and assignments that they do, okay? And I use badges in order to award those points, all right? So, like I said, I'm from Cumberland Valley High School. I also teach digital arts at Messiah College in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. And there's my email address if you'd like to get in touch with me. I haven't shared out my Google Sheets and presentations and things like that. I have made a PDF, I think probably, and it's linked, the PDF of this presentation here is linked within the app. I made a PDF because the fonts that I used are probably not available on your computer. If you downloaded the PowerPoint and loaded it up, it would not look good at all. I don't know what it would look like, but it wouldn't look that great. So let's get going. So what I noticed was that with my students, I noticed this game culture, and I have the opportunity to witness a lot of banter throughout the class and a lot of conversation because I'm assigning projects, and the students are talking amongst each other, having conversations. And one of the things I noticed a couple years ago, and I made this presentation 3 years ago, so it's a little dated, but I noticed that they're driven by this prestige and bragging rights that they have within their own gaming culture after school. And so much of their lives revolve around a social experience in a game environment. And at that time, it was every day I would hear, even seniors in high school, my classes are mixed, grades 9 through 12, and I would hear seniors even talking about who won Fortnite last night, or this, you know, they're talking about all of these games that they're playing online, and kind of bragging about how well they do in them, asking their friend if they're going to get on Xbox Live tonight. So I thought, why not harness that culture for use in the classroom? I haven't done too much research on gamification or games in the classroom. I've attended a few presentations, but I really haven't done too much research. So this system is for classwork and also for enrichment work. And I should note that since probably none of you are art teachers, is that correct? Any art teachers here? All right, that's what I thought. Since none of you are art teachers, I want you to imagine throughout this presentation, I did not adapt every bit of language to the core subject area or to different subject areas, but it can be applied to any subject area, really, okay? What made me think of it, I'll get to in a moment. So this is what made me think of it. I would see students, they would show me, they would come into class and they would say, Mr. Bromway, look what I made. And it would be a digital drawing on their iPad, or it would be a digital drawing on their phone. Or it would just be a regular drawing or a sculpture of some kind that they would bring in or show me a picture of. Say, wow, how'd you learn how to do that? Are you taking art lessons after school or something? Oh no, I just looked it up on a tutorial on the internet, right? So there are these thousands of teachers that are available to students, and a lot of them are chunked in small tutorials. And I imagine that that is the case for many different activities in any subject area. So what I thought was I would harness this power and use it to enrich my students. And I started to collect all of these tutorials, all of these different places on the internet where I could find tutorials on certain subject matter. And I put them all into a Google Sheet, and I'll show you that in a minute, to establish these categories of art making. So I saved all the URLs in my Google Sheet, and then I went and I sorted them. I wrote in the time. So some of the tutorials were only 5 minutes long. Some of them were 15 minutes long. Some of them were an hour long. And what I would do is I would sort that time now and get a ranking out of that. So what I would end up establishing this rating by difficulty, whether it be the time length, generally the time length, but maybe the technique and the material as well. But it could be books as well. Say you're an English teacher and you want them to be able to read short stories, or you want them to be able to have a competition on how many books are being read within the school year. I think I'm going to go. Okay, so here's an example of just some screenshots of all kinds of things that I found very quickly. I'm not even using these really. I made this presentation originally for a group of art teachers, and I'm a digital art teacher, so I'm also an outlier in that culture. Most people are fine arts. When I go to the Pennsylvania Art Education Association conference and I present, I am also the very small minority of within the small minority of teachers who teach digital arts. Most people are there teaching fine art. So I thought I would grab these examples. So here's a 9-minute tutorial on how to draw heads. Here's a beginner elephant painting tempera tutorial that's 15 minutes long. How to sculpt a clay head, for instance, or how to make a book sculpture. And I just started going, that was just a quick Google search to find some of these things. And so I was hoping that maybe you could team up. And I was thinking within your subject area, and I'll try to show you my categories here quick. Here it is. Here's my spreadsheet, okay? And again, since I teach digital arts and I have a 3D scanner, I have 3 different challenges that, more than three challenges. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 challenges based upon using the 3D structure scanner that I have in the classroom. Now that's one piece of equipment that I can't get out to my 20 students and demonstrate and have everybody use within a day. It actually takes me about a month in teams of 2 to get everybody through the structure scanner, because it usually takes them about 2 class periods to get a hold of it. So here's an example of how I sorted that. Here's the tutorial time, here's the link to the tutorial, and back here's the link to the tutorial, and then I leveled them. So level 1, 2, and so on and so forth, okay? And over here, I have another category in 3D sculpting, all right? And then I have another one in 3D printing. And here's another one on applying materials within 3D digital design and making 3D models. So a whole bunch of them, and you can see I've assigned these Bombite totals to each one. So there's starts off with 25, you get 50 in level 2, and you get 100 at the end of level 2, and then into a level 3. This one is 56 minutes long, so the students would get 125 Bombites if they were to complete that. Another example of using curves, another example of using texturing is the next section here. And what I did was I broke this out by many different categories. And then I also broke it out by class, okay? So here's my 3D animation class, and these colors are just for me to say which ones are live, which ones are not, for instance. And so I came up with these lists. And so I was thinking that you could, back to where I need to be here. That's where I need to be. I was thinking with your subject area, if you could take 3 or 4 minutes and jot down some different things that you might think would be advantageous. So give us an example here. Anybody want to volunteer? Subject area? Okay. English, okay. What grade level? Okay, 12th grade English. What kinds of things outside or related to your curriculum would you want your students to enrich themselves with? Categories.
Well, right now we're in poetry.
Okay.
And I think that I can choose poems that will be beneficial for them to learn.
Okay, so one example might be to go and find poetry, find a poem and write a response, right? And turn that in. That would be one example. So take just 2 minutes or so and think of a couple within your own subject area that you could have your students enrich themselves with. I'll give you some think time, and then I wouldn't mind you sharing out just to kind of make it relatable to the core classroom areas. So this is about enrichment, not so much about what exactly you're doing in the classroom, but related enrichment activities. So just an example from different core areas or different subject areas? Your subject area?
One of them is photography.
Okay. And
so one of the subject areas could be shutter priority and find instances of slow shutter speeds such as waterfalls, and slow and fast it would be a car race.
Very good. So you could find a tutorial online about setting your camera to slow shutter speeds and how to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And then they could take their DSLR and they could go out and they could take a few photos using slow shutter speed with blurred motion, post them to their blog and turn it in. I'm getting to that point. I'm getting to how we do that. Another subject area. Something from English or math or social studies? Yeah. What's your subject area?
Science.
Okay, science.
So we're studying the solar system, but don't tend to go very in-depth on a lot of the individual planets, so students could choose a planet, so more in-depth on the information, the missions that NASA and other agencies are sending.
Right, exactly. And you can prescribe that. You can find a video tutorial or a web page that describes all these things about Neptune, for instance, and then they could go and they could write a response and turn that in, or put together a project of some kind that shows that they're learning about Neptune, and then they would earn their points in the game. Okay? And it's not something that you're going to put a grade on. All you have to do is assign a badge, and I'll get to that in just a little while. One other example? Subject area?
I'm also science.
Okay.
I'm in grade science. I'm one of 3 people solely responsible for PSSA.
Okay.
So we had an extra class period where we reviewed the 6th and 7th grade information.
Mm-hmm.
So just being able to bring that overview back and not take from the regular class time.
Okay, you can do that in class, right? And you can find different resources for the students to go to, and you can link them and put them within your LMS and all of that, and then they could write responses. You can do it on paper as well. You wouldn't have to use blogging. You could do this with badges that are made out of paper. Who doesn't use a learning management system in here? Everybody has a learning management system of some kind? Oh, I heard some sigh. Who doesn't use a learning management system? No?
I use one, but sometimes it doesn't work.
Okay, but you have one available to you. Is that right? Most learning management systems have a badging system, and that's really what this is all about, okay? And so you can house everything within the LMS. So when I like to use this Google Blogger, I've gone and I have explored a lot of different kinds of blogs, Wix and WordPress and so on and so forth. But Google Blogger is so easy to use, and it is it's very. I mean, the students already have a Google account usually, all right, through the school, and then you just go to blogger.com and you sign in with your Google credentials, and then you go and you create a new blog. And what I do is I have personal blogs. I have the students keep a personal blog where they go and they post all of their assignments, all authors on a class blog as well. So for the class blog, anybody can go in from the class and write a blog post, and it shows that they have made the blog post, and then they can share what they're doing as far as an enrichment activity. So they get to share it out if anybody wanted to go in there and look. And sometimes I bring that up in class just to motivate students. They will end up having a big record. I guess what I'm trying to say is the enrichment activities, we don't show them all in class. We don't hold up the poster like in the old days. Look what Johnny made out of class, okay? And we don't do show and tell. It's all in the blog, and they can go and check that out anytime that they want. So with Google Blogger, I just have from the back end here. This is my class blog, and I've invited everybody into it. So this was just this post was just made on February the 20th, and I do a lot of 3D printing in the class and 3D scanning. And so here's a student, Dan, that made this. Here is that's been printed, a picture of a print. Before it's printed, they have to upload it and show me as well, and show me that it's modeled, right? And it's ready to go to print, and they get bond bites for that as well. Here is, I have them upload their scans to Sketchfab. I'm not going to open those up. But there is a whole bunch of these, and not much variety in these couple posts here, because you are seeing that there is, I'm going through one certain assignment here, okay? So for instance, I had a student use the 3D scanner. They uploaded this to a website called Sketchfab, where they can embed this then in the blog, and it proves to me that they've completed that. Well, I'm not going to look. They're all about the same right now, but let's see. I guess I could go to some other ones. And they also go and post their example of any kind of project that they've done. So, for instance, what I have them do is I have them take pictures of their 3D prints. So here's a student, for instance, who designed a turtle, and here are some bond bites for that, and then he went and printed that. So just an example of like a way that you can share out all of this with everybody. Everybody in the class can take a look at that. So what I use for a scoreboard is Google Sheets. I use Google Sheets, and I call it the high scoreboard. And I go and I use Google Sheets to create an 80s style scoreboard, and students choose gamer tags, a username or a handle. I try to make it fun for them. They can put their name on it, I guess, if they want to, but they come up with their own handles. And I give authoring rights to the students to this Google Sheet. And I use a Google form to collect all of their email addresses. I'm sure most LMSs have all of those email addresses, but it's just a lot easier to collect their email addresses this way. Some of them use their personal email at the high school level. So whatever they like to use to get in. This way I have their email address that they use to get into the sheet and into the blog in case they forget it, like they get logged out and they forget their password on their personal account or something like that. I use an auto sort script to allow students to enter their own score, should be. Revision history allows for teacher monitoring as well. So the way that this works is, I had my computer science teacher, I have no idea how the code works, but if you email me, I can send you a copy of it, and it would work just fine for you. You could get in there and learn the code. this is the high score sheet that they all belong to, and this is my current high score for my 3D digital design and fabrication class. And you can see that the user, they have come up with their own username, so in the beginning of the year I really don't even know who's who. It's kind of funny, I have to go in class, I have to say, who's 2% fat-free milk? Well, you're at 1325, you're at 1,325 bomb bites. Great job, right? So they're in second place. Great thing about this is the script that's put into here, like I said, my computer science teacher just handed it to me, which I was so thankful for. If they go and they change this number, it reorders. So if I take one of these, I'll have to remember their score so I don't screw them up. So I'll take Q-star here, and what I will do is I will change that to 1,500, and it was 900, right? Okay. And now they are, I might have clicked on the wrong student, but their score went up to the top, and they're in first place. They're ranked in first place. Okay. So they go in and they update their own scores. Well, it usually works really well. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but I know it's accurate and it works. So that's what that looks like. So here's a screenshot of what that looked like. Okay, so the game. The students helped me make this up. It was inspired by a teacher named Mike Skotko from Valhalla High School in California. He has a website here called MacLab. And it is an amazing thing that I came across. Years ago, I was trying to figure out how to teach digital arts and what I could do to motivate students. And I came across this teacher with a MacLab website. And what he does is he has a real game going on. It's something like, he calls himself the boss, and he has all kinds of, I'm not going to get into it. You could go and look it up. It's really amazing. He has many, many tutorials. He's way beyond me. The guy is really, really a genius. So I saw that and I asked my students, and you know, would you like to do this? And they said, yeah, that sounds like fun. We could do that. So students choose from a list of challenges. And like I told you, I structure them through that Google Sheet by tutorial time, level 1, 2, 3, etc. And the bomb bites that I award are based on difficulty of these challenges. The students photograph and post the work to their own blog and to the class blog. So I like graphic design, I like Photoshop, so I came up with these couple icons that I use and I put them in my badges, all right? But you can just use photos and put them into your badges as well. I use that all the time. I'll take a photo of a certain project, or I'll take a photo from the internet or something like that. So if we're learning about, for instance, planets, right? You could just take a little photo of a planet from the internet and put that into your badge and do it that way. But for the generic levels, I just use these cell phone bars. So here's what the challenges look like within Schoology, my LMS that I use. Students submit to a link in the Dropbox in Schoology, and I award a badge. So when they go into the folder within Schoology, how many of you use Schoology? Just wondering if I'm talking to an audience that knows what I'm. All right, gotcha. Okay, we're on the same page. So here you can see that there's a folder that I call Bomb Bite Challenges. And inside of these Bomb Bite Challenges, there's different folders. This one's on 3D sculpting. And what I do is, I just write a little description, and there's a link inside here, and it tells them how much they're worth. And on the front page of this, I tell them they have to complete at least one level 1 challenge before they go on to level 2, all right? So they could also go and complete all the level 2 challenge, all the level 1 challenges, and then move on to level 2. So in level 1, they could just earn 50 bomb bites, or they could just earn 25 bomb bites, or they could do all 3, and they could end up with 125 bomb bites before they go on to level 2. Okay, and that's all explained on the front page ahead of this, and I can just show you an example of what that looks like within Schoology. So get the badges later on. So I embed the high score sheet, and a lot of times I'll just put this up on the board when they come in as well to kind of motivate them, let them know who is where and what ranking. And here is my Bomb Bite Challenges assignments folder. So I get in there, and there's all these different categories. And for this one, for instance, for 3D scanning, there's 3 levels of difficulty. It gives the rules. You have to do one level 1 before you move on to a level 2. You have to complete at least one level 2 to go on to level 3. And I'll get to this in a minute. The Prestige is award, this 3D scanning Prestige is awarded after completion of one level 3 challenge, okay? And it also tells you how many bomb bites are available within this folder. So they could get 1,100 bomb bites in this folder if they wanted to. Remember, none of this is graded or assigned, okay? So if you get to level 3 down here, one of these, you end up earning what's called Prestige. And I'll get to that in just a little while. There's just different ways I reward the students. Any questions thus far? Okay, so I got everything together in a Google Sheet just to kind of gather all of my information and get links to tutorials and rank things. And then I go into Schoology and I make new assignments. They're ungraded assignments. So they don't go into the gradebook, but I do get a notification when they're submitted. So the categories, and I talked a little bit about this already. I organize by categories in digital modeling, animation, and film, but these could easily be adapted to subject matter, to any subject matter, really. Here's 45 challenges, for instance, okay? So within the category of drawing, if I wanted to go with drawing, line drawing, I could find 9 tutorials on contour drawing. Each one of these level 1, 3 choices of them would be 25 bomb bites each. This one, level 2, 3 choices, 50 bomb bites each, and so on. I'm not going to read through this. Here's another example, general to specific, 9 tutorials on that, 9 tutorials on drawing with perspective. Here's a category on on value with drawing. Smooth shading, there's going to be 9 tutorials on that, and cross-hatching, 9 tutorials on that. And if I go and I add all of that up, there's 45 challenges just there. Now, there is a lot of work on the front end, but it's just like putting together a course anytime you're going to put together any kind of curriculum. I already showed you my challenge sheet for my records. This is what it looks like. And if a link goes bad, something becomes outdated, I go back here, update it, and then go into Schoology and I update that. Okay, so the way it works then is I have to create badges. And so they accept the challenge, they follow the tutorial, they go and they do their work, they post it on their blog, and then they turn in a link to that blog post into the challenge box within Schoology. Once we get there, I get a notification that says that Johnny has gone and done this challenge, right? So I'll go in, I'll click on that, it links over to the blog, I check their work, and with every challenge, I make a badge that goes along with it, okay? So here's an example of some of my badges, and it gives directions on what they need to do, all right? So if they finished a challenge level 1, they earned these 25 bomb bites, say congratulations, you may move on to a level 2 challenge, and so on and so forth, okay? Level 3, they get to the end, it says congratulations in the end, and it tells them how much they've earned. Now, their responsibility, once they get the badges, is to go into the Google Sheet and update their score and keep their score. There's a revision history there, and I also have track of all my badges that I can check in my badge awards within the LMS. And that's what this looks like, okay? So all my badges are made, they're all across the top. Some of them are photos, some of them are images from the internet, and so on and so forth. Here's the one that I made. You don't have to make your own badges. I just found all of this. Here's all of my students. And as soon as somebody goes and, for instance, does the 3D scanning print, then I go and I check that. Brian has that, and it gives him a badge on his side that he can then go, know the score from, and go into the Google Sheet and update the score. Yeah?
You mentioned you're using Schoology, right?
Yeah.
And so that provides you this platform where you can just upload an image and there's the badge. That's the way that you're giving it to the student.
I'm pretty sure most LMSs with badging, that's the way it works. You can create your own badges. See, okay, this was the impetus for it all. I use Moodle. I use Desire to Learn. I use there was some other platform, Canvas, and then Schoology. So I'd always see that there was these badges. Like, okay, oh yeah, you've completed the course. Good for you. Woohoo! You get a badge. You know, like who cares? I would get them from professional development, and I would think within my own LMS, and I would get this training badge that I have been trained on how to use Windows 10. You know, like, so what? Is what I thought. But I thought badges are stupid. Why are they even there? It doesn't. Who is motivated by getting this electronic badge in the end? Okay, maybe you are. Is it motivating just to get a? Okay, all right, all right. Some people are. Okay, gotcha. Okay, but that was the impetus for it all. Really, I was thinking, how can I use these badges? And you can create your own badge. And in Schoology, there's a section in resources that you can go and store them all from year to year and pull them out. Okay, so I don't load them all into this sheet. I load them in kind of as we go through the year. Now, another way I reward my students is I use this level up board, and it's kind of old school for my classroom, but it's an old style bulletin board, and I've made different levels, and I asked the students to weigh in on this and give me names, and they came up with them as well. So, if you earn, for instance, I wrote the wrong number in here. If you earn, for instance, 1,000 bomb bites, you're at the bronze level, okay? Once you get to 2,000 bomb bites, you're at the silver level, and once you get, I'm not speaking correctly, I'm sorry. Once you get to 2,000, you're at the gold level. Once you get to 2,500, you're at the platinum level. I've never had anybody reach the platinum level, but you don't start on the board. And these are just little icons because we're doing 3D printing, and that example that I showed you, what I have them do is screenshot that and then print it out. And I just go and cut that out and laminate it. And once they reach 1,000 bomb bites, that's when I put them on this first bronze level. But out of my class of 20 students, I've got currently, and it's February, right, the end of February, I've got 7, it looks like. Okay, I've got 7 on the bronze level. But many of them, if you remember my scoreboard, many of them are ready to move up into the silver level. So as soon as that happens, when I see that, I'll just go and pull that off, and I'll put them up into the silver level. And it's really, it's a bragging thing. These students at the top, for instance, they are really competitive about it. If somebody gets ahead of them in this, they will go home and do 3 or 4 challenges in order to jump 2 steps above them. Okay, so it's on the scoreboard that's virtual within Schoology, but then this is kind of the always on the wall reminder of what level people are at. I should mention as well, I don't require my students to play this game. I tell them first day, if you don't want to play this game, don't play it. And if I pull up my Google Sheet and I go and look at the scoreboard, you'll see there are some students who put their name in the first day, but it still says 0. They don't even put in the points that they got for their projects throughout the year, okay, that are assigned. Because I also award bomb bites based upon the graded assignments that everybody gets. So, you got an A on your assignment, you got a B on your assignment, you got a C on your assignment, you turned it in, but if you got a D, unfortunately, I'm sorry. You turned it in as well, but you got an F. You all get 100 bomb bites with a badge for completing that project. Does that make sense? You still get rewarded that way. Does that make sense? Okay? So it doesn't have anything to do with grades. Whether you want to put them into the score sheet or not, that's up to you. And some students aren't competitive. They just don't want to get involved with this kind of thing. So they just say, I don't play. I'll say, hey, have you updated your score yet? And they'll just look at me and go, no, I don't do that. And I say, okay, it's whatever. Not a big deal. I generally get about 3/4 to maybe 85% of the class involved. Okay. Okay, here's another way that I try to motivate students, and it's through prestige. So, I had a series of challenges, for instance, with After Effects, where I wanted the students to learn After Effects on their own, and that's what they did. They reached level 3 within a certain challenge folder. Then they earn prestige, and I have to remember when that is and when to go and award that. Or the students who are really into it will tell me, hey, I got to the prestige level. Okay. So the way I came up with this was, I should finish off. This is a slide that I made in that Google Slides presentation. And I'll go and I'll put up a slide that says Achievement Unlocked. And then the next slide will come over and it'll show this one. And I pull their picture from the student information system, put their name on there, and I made this badge over here to go along with it. Okay. So this is called the Prestige Badge for After Effects. So when I started this, what was it? Yeah, I started this. Usually I tend to make a lot of art over Christmas break, or I read a book, or I chill out with my family, or do those kinds of things to kind of recharge while I'm off over winter break. But 2 years ago, I asked my wife for a video game, and I said, I want Call of Duty, and can you get me Call of Duty World War II? Because I'm not a gamer. I don't sit around playing games. I used to when I was a teenager, right? And a little bit in college, but I'm not one of these gaming guys. I'm really not. But I wanted to understand the culture, and so my kids have an Xbox, so I popped it in and I started playing it. And I played Call of Duty World War II, I think, every day over Christmas break, and I got pretty far. But I'm not as good as the kids, that's for sure. But through that experience, I learned different things within games that keep the students in the game, right? And one of them was this prestige that pops up in the corner. You've reached a certain level of kills, or you've picked up so many med packs, or you've gone and you've been through, you found all the secret diamonds on the level, whatever it is. There's this thing that pops up. It says it's an achievement, and I don't know why that's exciting, but I got excited when I got it, okay? So I thought, okay, well, I'll go and I'll incorporate that into the game. So that's where this came from. The other thing is certs. In game, at least in World War II, in Call of Duty, they call them certs. And I asked my students, I said, would you like a certificate? Is that too old school, or does that even do anything for you? And to my amazement, 3/4 of them, just like here, when I asked this question a little while ago about badging, 3/4 of them raised their hands and were like, I want a certificate. I want the piece of paper. You know, I thought, wow, I didn't think that did anything for you guys. But they've been trained. Student of the month, perfect attendance, right? All this stuff that they get, these certificates that they get throughout school, they've been trained to really appreciate those certificates. So I ended up calling them certs, right? These two I've been trying to get to. I have not developed them yet, but I thought maybe another one would be a quest level. So once a student reached a certain level, they would be awarded with a quest. And that means they could opt out of my class if they wanted to. This is for a student who is really ahead. I mean, this is for your best student. The only student, I've never had one, I've never come across one where I thought I should really put in a quest for them. But I thought it's interesting, and I want to get there, to be able to work on what they want independently within the subject area and then report back what they found. So I haven't quite structured that, but that's something that's on my to-do list to kind of further develop the game in the future. And then the other thing is expert status. Once you get above prestige, you become an expert. And the great thing about these prestige and expert levels is that these students help the other students when they want help with something, okay? You should see what this student does. This is him in the beginning of 10th grade, okay? He's now a junior. He's at the end of his second half of his junior year. This student is able to design a 3D environment in Blender, light it, model it, all of that, and then go into our TV studio and set up colored lights to match the lighting in that scene, and go and film a scene with our cameras, take that, put it back into After Effects, and composite it together so it's put together just like a CG movie is, just like a Marvel movie, where everything in the background is completely fake, but there's live action actors in front of it. And the reason why that student is, and he's known across our art department, he's known from the students, he has this reputation of being the best in what he does, which he's really into CG. He's really into CG effects, or VFX, I should say, visual effects. He earned this in the beginning of his, in maybe October of his sophomore year. And this really, I think, did catapult him to the point where he is one of these super, super high achieving students. His mom went along on a field trip to New York City. We went to the Met and the Guggenheim this year. And he didn't sit with his mom on the bus. I thought that's normal. But you know, I got to talking with her. I think we stopped at Chick-fil-A on the way back or something. And she's like, "Yeah, Zachary doesn't talk to me. Is he doing okay in your class? Because he doesn't do too well in his other classes." I said, "Yeah, he's my best student." "Really?" I said, "You guys don't. No, he doesn't show me anything that he does." And I was just kind of taken back that this is my best student. He is the nicest student, the most respectful student. He treats everybody around him with so much respect, and he's helpful to everybody, and we have a great working relationship, and he has a great working relationship with his class, and him and his mom don't get along, they don't talk. But I was just that kind of struck me as, this student doesn't do, he's a C student basically, but he is, in my class, he's the top. He's the top of the crop. I mean, he's really, really something. And I think this has something to do with it. He has natural ability and curiosity, but this helped him along. I really believe that it did. So here's our award ceremony that I do. This is the one that I did. I try to make it as cheesy as possible, and this is the one that I did at the end of the second marking period. Okay, I make up these cheesy awesomeness awards, and I try to put them in like old game graphics. I give them an old game graphics look. I put their name on there, and then I go and I laminate them, and I tend to play the Star Wars award ceremony theme song at the end of New Hope, and I call them up to the board. And so I ended up with this is the great thing too. This is a 9th grader. This is the senior. But she's still as proud as the 9th grader. I thought it was like I thought that was a great comparison. Most of the time, seniors are just kind of checked out, like, whatever. I'm not even playing this game, especially now with freshmen. It's not happening, But that's not the way that this works. He's a junior, senior, junior, freshman, junior. And what happened was we ended up with a tie. There was a tie. They both had the same amount, so tie for first place. I think there was a tie for second place. Nope, it was a 4-way tie for second place. It looks like all these numbers appear to be the same in the back. But in the end, there ends up being a winner. And once I gave out this, then things really kicked into high gear. And that's when I started seeing extra assignments being turned in, extra challenges being turned in, extra things that they were doing. So the student reaction, they've definitely been proud of their bragging rights. Some students will find that they're falling behind on the leaderboard. Like I said, they go home, they rush home to create more art. They go and do that. Or they come down during their study hall. That's the other thing that I see. They all ask me for passes, and they show up in my room during the resource period in the morning or in the study hall, and they're trying to get in extra work. All this extra work, which they get no grade for at all, right? And that's the part I love about it, that there's no grade for any of it. It's all above and beyond. It's enrichment, and I don't have to push it towards them. I don't have to beg them for it. They can do it if they want, and if they don't want, then that's fine too, okay? Some students don't participate. I said, no problem, and I don't put any pressure whatsoever on those people. It's not a big deal. It's not for some people. They just don't want to be in the game. And there's less emphasis on grades and more emphasis on knowledge and technique, which is what I'm all about, okay? There's the grade-driven culture in my school is outrageous. It is sickening. It makes me sick to my stomach thinking about GPA, weighted GPA, and my daughter is in 11th grade at my own school, and our grade scale is 93 to 100 for an A, and so on and so forth. Below a 70, you're failing. And then the teachers, I don't get it. I guess a lot of them pay attention to it, but if you're assigning 10-point quizzes and you get a 7 out of 10, you just failed. You failed. You got 7 out of 10 right, but you failed. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, it's passing by 1 point. All right, 69 is okay. But it doesn't make any sense to me. All it does is drive students away from learning. It drives their motivation down. Sure, grades motivate some people, but the vast majority of students that I have seen when talking about grade scale and when talking about the pressures of class rank within a school of 3,000 students, the vast majority of them are very discouraged by it. And I find that this is a good way to be able to motivate students to learn more and not concentrate on grades so much. Okay, because it's just a kind of a pet peeve of mine. So I see that my daughter in her English class will have a quiz of 10 points, and the teacher grades it at 9. That's a B. It's a B. You got one wrong. You got a B. Doesn't make any sense to me. why don't you scale it? Why isn't it a 9.3? One wrong is a 9.3. Two wrong is an 8.4 for a B, right? To come out with an 84. Teachers overlook these things, and I especially see that going on with learning management systems, where you're just, I think back in the day when we had, and I was there, where we had a grade book that we opened up, you'd look across and you'd say, okay, this student is just at the high B level, and they've really been working hard, and I'm going to put an A on their report card because they're at, let's use a normal grade scale, they're at an 89, but this student works really hard, I can see that. I'm going to push them up to a 90, and I'm going to mark A by hand on a grade sheet, right? I don't know who remembers doing that. But nonetheless, LMSs don't allow for that. The data is kind of hidden. You don't look back at what you're actually giving the student. You don't pay attention even to what their averages are as you put in your grades. At least I don't. Just something that really got under my skin as my own students went through middle and high school, my own children, that is. And yeah.
This. When kids complete a project on this, if it's not up to par, do you accept it?
I still do. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if it's really bad, or if it's copied from the internet, I'll just take them aside and say, I know that you copied that from the internet, or you need to go and you need to go. Well, number one, you need to go back and do that. I'm not kidding. Number two, if it's just not up to par and the quality isn't great, I'd say, you know what, could you go back and do a little bit more work on that before I give you the badge? And that's a conversation that I just have with the student. And actually, I do like that about LMSs. There's a message system that I can just type that in. I got your challenge assignment, but I think you could do a little better job. Why don't you just do A, B, and C and resubmit it, and I'll give you the badge, right? And I can usually modify it that way. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm not a teacher, I'm a director of technology, but I do coach high school volleyball. Do
Okay.
you think something like this for like
Absolutely. Go to the weight
would
room.
still be, okay.
Go to the weight room, right? Do you have, I don't know if you have an electronic system, but so let's take this out of electronic systems and out of LMSs. Back in the day, you could go and print off bulletin board, die cutters. Use the die cutters to make up little badges, right? Write things on there if you wanted to and pass them out. You can keep a leaderboard. In our weight room at our high school, for instance, there's a female lifts and a male lifts, and it shows who is where on that ranking system, right? But you could go and you could put it all into Google Sheets. It would work, yeah. Do weights or do exercises, that kind of thing, drills, all that kind of stuff. Spend half an hour doing this drill, or spend 15 minutes doing this drill. Question?
I wanted to ask you about motivation, and it seems like from what you're saying,
That's my warning, sorry. Gotcha.
there are some students who are just motivated to earn the badges, to compete with their classmates, have their top spot. And I was going to ask you if you offered any kind of, if you earn certain badges, maybe you can replace a traditional classroom assignment. And it sounded like that was what you were thinking with one of the quests along those lines.
For the highest achievers. I would never want this to get in the way, at least in my classroom, I would never want it to get in the way of the curriculum that I'm delivering.
Did you ever consider or use like extra credit for attaining a certain number of points or level of badge?
That's a good idea. I've tried. I award extra credit for things like editing videos for our band concert or for things like that. But within this, I don't generally do that. But you can see there are just what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. 7 of them that just aren't. They don't care. They're not playing. But there are a couple others that are way, way above. They've done a lot more, right? So I hope I've answered your question, but I've tried not to let grades interfere with this. I've always tried to keep it totally separate from grades. Yeah.
When you were implementing this initially, like the first year, what were some of the things you realized that worked well, and what were some of the things that we should look out for in implementing?
The management aspect of it is what you should look out for. The teacher management aspect of it. Okay. So anything that you are, anything that let's see, be organized, keep that Google Sheet, keep everything very updated and organized within that Google Sheet. One thing that I had to learn to do was watch my notifications. So when I go into a class in Schoology, I have these assignments. Here they are, right? And I can click on them and see who's turned them in. But I don't get these types of, and here's a reminder, 6 ungraded assignment submission, right? All of these are graded assignments. So Schoology gives me those. What I have to do is I have to watch this bell up here. And every morning I go and I click on that bell, and I come down here and I click on View All. And all of these are assignments. Let me see if I can find one. These are all assignments. Here's a challenge right here. So as soon as I see that challenge come up, I think I already showed you this one. But as soon as I see that challenge come up, I go and I look. And it shows me how many students have submitted. And then I need to go over and open up, usually I just go and I open up a new window. And I go over to the badges. And I just double check. This one's called Print the Bust. And these students should have these badges. So I have to go through. I know that Dan turned it in, so Daniel would. So I go down here. Here is the printing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Something's funny. It looks like I might have awarded. Oh, I know what it is. The student did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, it was 8. Gotcha. So I do have them in here. I'll go and I'll cross-check it that way. And that's something that I had to get in the habit of doing. The other thing is taking the time to update the advertisement that I use. This advertisement here that I put up, that is maintenance on my end as well. So kind of thinking about where do I want students, what do I want them to do this week, leave up a challenge of the week. That was very difficult for me. The successes were that my class became my class of computer students, computer-oriented students who generally are not social and don't talk to each other. They come into my class and they put on their headphones and start watching tutorials that I've made. I have a move at your own pace class where I'm not doing too much instruction in front of the class and they're just kind of following tutorials throughout, and I'm there to facilitate. What it did was it kind of opened up and gave a social aspect to the class that was really interesting. And you know, the other thing about this type of student that I have, hate to stereotype them, but this is the way they are. They come in and they sit down. A lot of times they don't even say hello. They open up the computer. It's their only class of the day where they have a computer where they could just go and get on the computer and get to work right away. And they generally wouldn't even come in and say, good morning. You know, I've really been enjoying learning about, you know, hard surface modeling or something like that. But now they come in and they're like, you should check out this thing that I made. Yeah, you can see, you know, it's really something. They're very proud of their work, and it's very social. And they make sure they say it out loud so that the students in earshot who are also within close range of them on the scoreboard can hear that. You know, it's all about the bragging rights. That's what it's all about. It's really something. Which I thought, so what? That's great. I want students to be proud of their work. You know, it doesn't get lost in the computer and never shown anywhere. Right? Any other questions? Yeah.
I just have more of a comment. When you mentioned using Google and that most students have a Google account, I know I've heard it going around that a lot of schools are going completely Microsoft and ditching Google, which my school is. But I thought of either OneNote or Teams for anyone who might be Microsoft only.
Okay. Is there a blog component within Microsoft that you're aware of?
Not that I know of, but I'm sure there's something.
Microsoft loses again. I've always been an anti-PC Microsoft guy. Sorry, but yeah, another down for Microsoft.
My school actually, I was asking you a little bit about Schoology. I'm a cyber charter school.
Yeah.
And we actually just built our own LMS, and it's very like rough draft. It's not fully formed, and I feel like a badging system is probably down on their priority list.
Right.
I don't know if you happen to know if there's any easy external badging system that you can use in place of one that comes in an LMS.
I'm not familiar. Is anybody else familiar with something like this that's independent of an LMS? Go ahead.
Edmodo.
Edmodo. Okay.
Schoology has a free part to it.
Oh, you're right.
I use Schoology before the state purchased it. I didn't know about the badging, but that one.
You're right, I remember that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's also a website called Flippity, which works with Google Sheets that has a badging component to it.
Oh, Flippity. Okay. Might be interesting.
I think it's an extension on Google Sheets.
Does it happen automatically? Because if it does, I'm switching.
I don't think it's automatic, but you can go into Google Sheet and I don't know, I haven't actually used it, but I do know that they have a badging component.
So one thing to remember with this kind of system is that it's extra work for the student and it's extra work for you. So it's something that beyond the regular scope of the curriculum, beyond the regular scope of everything you do, there is this little bit of extra that you put in. So it's just a matter of whether or not you're up for the extra task. I am. So like I said, first year was awesome, very manageable, 20 students. I went and tried with 7 classes and I didn't have it. It was too much. So you want to find your most applicable class. And for me, that was a level 1 class. A level 1 class that had a mixed group of students. It just was something that was more manageable for me to get them motivated. Yeah. So only the top ones do. I tell them I don't let them. I fake it. No, I just say, I haven't had enough time to put that together, and yeah, that's what I did this year. And they go, oh man, I want my picture up on the wall. This is the other thing, I would print those prestige pictures, and I'd put them on the bulletin board in the hallway and stuff. Like I was doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Have you thought about or tried using maybe the previous year students or some of those really high achieving students to kind of be like the game masters to manage?
To manage?
Yeah, so.
Ooh. That's a really good idea because I have my.
Yeah.
How could I get them into the LMS to award the badges and check all the work?
Yeah, that's what I'm, like, unless it's a separate thing they can see your grades or something.
Right. Could they be like a TA?
Because they just have to have a Google Sheet and then they can just award it.
Oh wow, that's a good idea. Because I have the way my classes are structured is I have a level 1, there's a level 2, which is 3D animation for this class, and then I have what's called digital portfolio classes. This is for students who want to put together independent projects like video games and so on and so forth. To be able to, it's kind of like an independent study, like a group of independent study, and these are for college-bound students, right? So with my 3D printers that I have, I got tired of maintenance on 3D printers because it was just all the time and taking a lot of time away from my day. So that's exactly what I did with that level class. I always have one 3D printer who's like a maintenance person, and they just stop their work and go and unplug printers all the time. It works well.
Google Classroom, like my newspaper editor and like the creative writing club, like leaders, like the students and teachers would make those designs as well.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Google Classroom can do that.
Google Classroom.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
We're in the G Suite, so.
Flippity and Google Classroom. I should check that out.
Can you put your information up again?
I can. Is there another presenter in the room? 9 o'clock?
There is one after you.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to get out of the way. There's only 1 minute here, so I need to pack it up. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks a lot, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Drive safe home. There it is. If you want to take a picture of it. Did you get it? Contact? Am I good?
I think she did.
And all of that is in the app as well. There's a big long PDF in the app. I'm so sorry.
I sent him up this. How great did that work out?
Keith made this sheet for me. Were you in the session? It was Keith who made that code for me. We share a lot of students through computer science. Yeah. I sure am. Hey, Jess, what's up? How are you?
I'm good.